Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to today's panel for creating safe spaces for Blerds who love Keanu Reeves. If you guys are familiar with all the speakers up on this panel today, we have also done these chats and discussions at previous conventions such as Fanime and last year's MAGWest, which was really great. And so I just want to kind of go down the line and introduce everybody real quick and just kind of give like a quick spiel of who you are, starting all the way on the left with Danny.
Hello, I'm Danny the Paladin. I'm a rapper. I like to do a lot of things, but I just am glad to be here, and yeah, pretty much. Thanks.
My name is Jane the Message. I am also a rapper. I'm a freestyle and a battle rapper, and I often represent a feminist perspective in my lyrics.
I am Sarah. I am Keane Roberson's wife, the creator for this panel, who is unfortunately not here with us today, but I will be representing him to the fullest.
My name is Aaron A.O. Lyrical Oakley. I will be representing mental health and group homes.
My name is The Rap Nerd. I'm a producer, DJ, youth activist. I work a lot with kids across the Bay Area, show them how to record and produce. And me and Keane actually working behind the scenes, curating this whole entire event for MAGWest for this year, and also with Fanime and other events to really bring about inclusion for all nerd artists in the Bay Area.
My name is Marcos. I work at pretty much, basically if there's a convention, I might be working at it in California. I represent a lot of different conventions. I end up working in social media, press, whatever I find at a convention that I find interesting. And one of my main topics is I try to make sure that there's a safe space in a lot of conventions, that people know where they can communicate with staff.
And lastly, my name is Mark Cooper. I'm actually from Detroit, Michigan. I'm a nerdcore artist, producer, songwriter, and manage a few people. I'm just like to bring awareness to nerd culture and let them know it's okay to be a nerd.
So real quick before we continue, I also want to point out in the crowd that we also have Nightwing coming in, traveling from another state to perform from New York, coming from New York. So he'll be chiming in a couple times during this panel, as well as Only One Ronin, who is from the Shogunate. From Oakland, local guy. He's also been going to these conventions for a really long time. And as well as we also have another nerdcore artist named Sky Blue who's sitting in with us today, just chilling and hanging out.
Hey.
Also, before we continue, if you guys want coffee and donuts, there is some light refreshments in the back. We got some Starbucks cold brew, dark roast. If you're into that, there's some creamer, donuts. Don't be shy, please. I don't lie about when I bring snacks, so I always provide.
Tell me twice.
Yeah, tell me twice. Okay, perfect. So as before we go on, I want Sarah and Wordy to actually kind of briefly talk about the origin of this panel and why it was actually created. Since these are the two individuals who actually got this together and got this going in support of Keane Roberson, who used to coordinate this panel. Like Sarah said, he's not with us anymore, but she will be here to speak on his behalf. So Sarah, do you want to go ahead and talk about the origin?
When Keane started working with MAGWest, he was just doing the publicity on the Twitter account, and immediately he saw the differences of larger cons to smaller cons, and how he was being treated and how others were being treated or not heard. So he began by making his way through to the right people and created also the first panel for MAGWest was people who attend conventions who do not look like Matt Damon. And so this is now the third installment among many other panels. I did work with him in the background, helping him to shape a panel, how to formulate the questions, how to keep people rolling, keep the conversation constantly improving and adding to. And now that we are here today, unfortunately he is no longer with us, but that does not mean he's not alive in us and gonna continue on, and that's why we are here today. We are here to continue on, to keep adding to, and make the voices heard, make the experiences heard, and make that difference.
Working with Keane has been an honor and a privilege, because where he was able to kind of like take on the administrative side, for the longest time I've been out here in the Bay Area grinding as an artist. When I first came out, I've been told by many conventions that, oh, it's because you're black, I've been talking about women and drugs and pimping. And I'm like, I rap about Transformers. Like, literally, I rap about Transformers. And when he finally saw me perform, he was like, how can I work with you? And his podcast, which is a wonderful play on the whole, like, All Lives Matters, which is All Podcasts Matters, was about really putting it in the face of people saying that you're not as inclusive as you think you are. And it's okay, because together we can fix this problem, but you have to first admit that there is a problem. And in doing so, we were always about making sure everybody was represented. And so our first kind of like flagship event was at Fanime. And I started a thing before, you know, and that's where we met. It was called Nerdcore Cypher. And then you're gonna see it in a little bit at 4 o'clock in the jam space. Whereas I had friends who I knew in the area who were also like me, similar nerdy underground artists who just needed a place to rock. I brought them out, had them rap the material, and then we do freestyle games together. That immediately broke down the door to where now, 3 years back to back, we're now one of the biggest panels at Fanime. And even going down into SAC and other conventions, because we're seeing that it's okay that you want to rap about nerdcore, but the gimmick has to stop. Because hip hop and nerdom have gone hand in hand since its very conception. And the keeping out of black and brown artists who are very passionate about the lyricism and the culture of nerdom needs to end. And so working for MAGWest and having just seeing how open they've been about actually wanting to bring that back here and on the West Coast has been a dream come true. To have Nightwing all the way from New York, Sky Blue from Jersey, right? Sorry, we're looking at Wisconsin. He's like, no, man, forget Jersey. Sorry, oh man. Anyways, these two guys, you don't know who they are. Nightwing is from an upcoming group called Otaku Gang. Sky Blue has been doing records across overseas between Japan and Korea, putting up major numbers. To get them out here to rock on the West Coast was a dream of ours. And on top of that, to have Only One Ronin, Jane the Message, Danny the Paladin, Ayo Lyrical, Sailor V over here who does rap, Mark Cooper over here, you know what I mean, and me, to really create a space and then to bring in more new artists. That hasn't been done before, because it's always been gatekeeped. And there's nothing against the OGs, because the OGs, the biggest one of all who I love dearly, MAGWest, he's been back behind the scenes saying like, yo, keep doing what y'all doing here on the West Coast. Because let's be honest, the West, we give birth to a lot of different styles, a lot of different sounds. And to see the love we're getting now, even here at MAGWest, means the world. So even though my friend may not be here with us, to be able to continue on what we started together truly is a blessing. And to see you all here tells me that when people, they want to know how can we be included, but how do we deal with this stuff? And that's where my wonderful, amazing daughter here is going to take it off with.
Thank you, Wordy. Okay, so just some things for everyone to know what we're going to be discussing. Just kind of quick crash course. Reasons why we attend conventions in the first place, why we want to integrate ourselves in the scene in general. Acknowledging diversity and backgrounds in a fandom. Also understanding the difference between appreciation and appropriation. I get this question a lot, sometimes in the streets, sometimes at parties when people are down like 5 Coke and Jacks, or Jacks and Coke. And then also some resolution things that we have kind of experienced to make sure that the whole community understands like what things you can or cannot do, how to intervene, how to feel comfortable with intervening, when it's appropriate to intervene. And then also we'll actually kind of but we'll go into talking about a little bit about mental health awareness and as well as the Blerd community. So why do we attend this convention? As the slideshow says, like we are a crowd of people who respectively come from different parts of our lives, and we just want to come to a thing that we want to feel like we really belong, and also to have fun. I think that's just kind of like the more simplistic approach of wanting to come to this thing. Like, oh, cool, MAGWest, oh, there's music, gaming, anime, maybe cosplay. And I'm in, right? And so you just want to have a good experience and a good story. So maybe, Marcos, do you want to elaborate on the appeal of going to conventions in the first place?
Yeah, sure. I've been going to conventions since, well, shit, I guess I've been going to conventions ever since I couldn't even walk. My mom was a huge Trekkie, so I didn't stand a chance. So the first convention I had been to on my own was back in 2003, so I've been going to these for a minute. And the appeal of conventions is to go to places where you can meet like-minded people who are into the same thing. Like, let's say that you are into writing some kind of interesting fan fiction about Naruto. Then you're gonna find someone at a convention who's probably into that, or at least is adjacent to it. Let's say that you like certain voice actors. You're probably going to find those voice actors at a convention. They might not even be on panels or anything like that. They might just be hanging out. But there's that chance to meet those people. And the biggest reason we go to conventions is because it helps us feel involved and engaged. It helps these hobbies, these pastimes that we love pouring time into, that we feel so passionate about. It helps those become real. So that's why we go to conventions, and at least that's why I go to conventions. Why do some of you go to conventions?
Actually this is more of like a crowd thing. Why do you guys go to conventions? If you want to just share and raise your hand real quick. Crickets.
Alright.
Yeah.
I just never knew that something like computer music could be combined and could be like,
Yeah.
like there's more than just me that likes that. Like there wasn't no internet when I was growing up, so like I thought that people that were into this kind of stuff, like the demo scene stuff, and you know, like that was all just a bunch of nerds on like the bulletin board systems with their dial-up modems, you know, and like I had no idea that so many people could like that I had a community out there, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Have you made a lot of new friends that way?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not like a social person, but like this has really made me want to socialize and interact and get out of my bedroom. You know, it's been amazing.
Anyone else who wants to share? I know Pikachu, if you are hungry, you can definitely grab some donuts. I saw you partying last night with Super Soul Bros, so if you're tired and you need some caffeine, go ahead and get out that coffee. I encourage it, okay?
I don't think
Seeing the hand out of his mouth still freaks me out. Look at that. This is wrong. This is why this exists. Oh, God.
You're cutting a donut.
That's terrifying.
Just take the whole thing, my brother.
What TM do you need for that?
Oh, God.
right?
You better not use surf because you're gonna have cramps.
There's no bathroom in there.
I got a photo of it, too. This is awesome.
Can I just say, like, this is what I come to conventions to see, is like Pikachu eating things with his soul hand.
Thank you, Pikachu. You're awesome. And also, pretty spontaneous things that happen at conventions that don't happen in the workplace. Hope it's for OSHA standards. So let's acknowledge some of the diversity and backgrounds in the fandom. some terms that are like, are usually thrown around, mostly in like a lot of, Twitter or Facebook or even Tumblr sometimes, that maybe if you haven't looked up the dictionary, here's your little guide. So, diversity, the condition of having or being composed of different elements, variety, especially the inclusion of different types of people, usually for races and culture. For inclusion, the practice of or policy of including people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized, such as those who have a physical or mental disability, and also members of the minority groups. So making sure that we're making those people feel as welcome as possible, that they belong, that they're one of us. And blurred is just some slang, black plus nerd, black community, plus being a nerd. So we'll go into that a little bit more a little bit later. So appreciation versus appropriation, what's the difference and why it's important? So, so I hope you guys appreciate the examples on the screen. Like we have King Vader's Naruto series. If you guys haven't seen it, please check it out on YouTube. He's so good, and he also he's dropping like a Cowboy Bebop version pretty soon. And this guy on the bottom in the ball pit is Frozone. So Frozone, as you guys know, is in The Incredibles. He is a black married man, who's a superhero, can freeze things. But I felt that this was actually a good picture to use because he appreciates the character and he's in the costume, but he's not doing any like character things.
He's not doing blackface, thank you. It's not what it is. He's doing blackface, yeah.
So like he's embracing the character, he's really having fun with it, but like he's not doing anything like out of pocket to misrepresent this person. And then same thing with the top photo, like obviously in Naruto, like ninja, mostly Asian culture, but this guy who does all these videos like really integrates the black community in these videos, but he does it so tastefully that it's not really appropriation of the series, it's more like an appreciation of the series and just like a parody. So parodies are fine, and I think in all of our books, I think if we can agree to that. So appreciation is having appreciation for the character, trying to identify the character with your own, or relating to the character with your own identity. You can cosplay or represent a character in any means, just as long as you're not trying to be like a racist figure about their race or appropriate their culture or over exaggerate the gender, which is like in stereotypical means. Sometimes in conventions that I haven't seen this too often, luckily enough, but I mean the most common thing I'll see anybody dress up as is a Native American. Which can be appropriation, especially if it's not a character in a series and you're just dressing up as a Native American. It's not really respectful for those cultures because like they come from such a respectful background that just dressing up and not understanding what they really represent is kind of disrespectful. So anybody, does anybody want to kind of chime in, Nightwing or Brady?
So, when it comes to like appreciation and appropriation, if you like something, that's totally fine. But you don't have to like become an elitist about it. Understand the culture, yes, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you start getting on a self-righteous kick that you know more than those who are part of it, or when you can say like, well, I think I'm more Asian, I'm more black than you, you've kind of crossed the line there. And even while cosplaying, you don't have to put like paint to be black, paint to be white, paint to be yellow, whatever it is. If it's an alien, that's totally different. You know what I mean? Like you're being an alien. That's I don't mean Mexican, okay? I mean an actual. Hey, we have our current hot Cheeto of a president. Lord help him. But anyways, like. I understand if it's like, let's say if you're doing amethyst and pearl, that kind of thing. That's totally fine. But if you want to be Black Panther, go with the Black Panther suit. That's totally fine. You don't have to do blackface. If you like Wonder Woman and you're a guy, you want to cosplay as Wonder Woman, do that. That's totally fine. But be respectful about it. That's the difference. When you show respect and appreciation, people know, okay, they're not trying to like appropriate or be offensive. And that's just the biggest problem, is that we think that we have to be offensive just to be heard. We don't have to do that these days.
Yeah, and to add with that, this is something I've been kind of like looking into more of, at least like appreciating a character. Like for instance, like when someone says like, oh, you're dressing up as a Native American, and it's like, oh, I'm just from this tribe, and like, all right, did you do your research on said tribe? And then it kind of is like, wait, so you dressed up as a Native American, but you ain't dressed up as T-Hawk from Street Fighter 2? You know, it's like something of a little extra thought that you could have done to at least avoid being offensive, because a lot of people might, like, the line between appreciation and appropriation is not that small. It's pretty easy in this one. And, you know, there's a lot of businesses out there, you know, that our culture is becoming more popular. If we didn't notice, the biggest movie is a Marvel film, Endgame. And it's like, if that doesn't tell you that these businesses are starting to get up on it, now we have to like be more cautious on looking of who do we support, who do we let represent us, because some companies are just gonna pander, and then they're gonna make a mistake. They're gonna say the wrong thing, and then, you know, no matter what field of, I guess, celebrity you might have or friends that you have in mind, and who you are as a person, you're gonna feel some type of way if you supported someone that didn't deserve it. So you have to look out for that as well. That's about it.
Yeah, but you mind if I? Okay. Just to bridge on, like I said, I'm out of Detroit, and we have our con called UmaCon, but this is where it gets interesting. UmaCon is normally around Halloween. So it'd be Halloween Day and a couple things of that nature. And it's right in the heart of downtown. So it's the Rinsen and Cobo and things like that. So obviously there's people who dress up in, you know, different outfits like Native Americans and all those particular aspects. And it's really just understanding, making sure that when people put on costumes that they're well aware of the situation that they're putting into. So I understand the concept, like sometimes you'll go to a convention. Some people just like to dress up. And it's just in that particular situation, but like any other day, of course, be more aware. But like when it comes down to like holidays and things like that in nature, it's always good to understand that people are not, you know, genuinely trying to offend anybody either. So it's always good to look at it from both sides of the playing field when it comes to, you know, appropriation, appreciation with that as well. So it comes in with that.
Thank you. All right, going on to the next thing about conventions, cosplay is not consent. Just some reminders and quick things about, you know, just with anybody who is wearing any type of suit or any type of dress, doesn't even matter if you're cosplaying, like I'm wearing short shorts, please don't touch me. But because if there's any midriff showing on, you know, on a woman, it doesn't mean that you're allowed to touch her. If a man has like, you know, wearing something super tight on his body, doesn't mean that you should touch him. There's been, you know, areas on both sides, both women and men, who have been getting a lot of trouble, especially those who've been viral on Instagram, with touching others at conventions. What's really interesting is I think back in 2014, I wish I would have put the examples on the slide, but there was a few movements of every time something happened at Fanime, the picture was taken, put it on Tumblr, and it was just like retweeted, reposted. And it's like, this guy dresses up as Emperor Cusco, and he does all these like weird pervy things to women, like stay away from him or report him to rovers, which rovers are the authoritative figure over at Fanime. So these things happen, like as much as like, you know, we're not supposed to be taking pictures of people without consent. If you're doing something weird, someone's gonna probably take your picture and you might get reported. So Marcos, actually, do you have any thoughts, since you do a lot of conventions in general?
I have a lot of thoughts on this one, actually. I work for a lot of Northern California conventions, specifically a lot of ones out in the Sacramento area. And with a lot of those, I work in the press room, and we're the ones who are the final arbiters of people who get to take pictures at the shows. We're the ones who monitor the people who are using the big-ass cameras that you see running around. And one of the biggest things that we have for that is that there is a code of conduct that every show every show worth their salt. It doesn't matter if you're, what do you call it, let's say Roseville Comic Con to San Diego Comic Con. Every show has a code of conduct which is supposed to depict what is appropriate at a convention. And one of those things is you're supposed to ask permission to take pictures, you're supposed to ask permission to come close to people, you're supposed to ask permission to basically do anything that can be construed as any kind of harassment in any way, shape, or form. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are still stuck back in like 1990s and 2000s, not as woke as we think it was. And they think it's appropriate to touch people or take pictures without asking. Like, example, there was a woman who was dressed up as Midoriya's mom, and I thought it was adorable. I went up and asked, may I take a picture? She said no. I said, oh, okay, thank you very much anyway. That's exactly the type of experience that's why cosplay is not consent is supposed to be so very important, is very important. It's because it gives people the ability to control what is going on about their body. Bodily autonomy is very important, and one of the biggest problems I have with, one of the reasons I personally have had to kick out photographers in the past is, who here has heard of the term ragdolling? So, Elwin, do you mind if I use you as an example?
I give my consent.
Awesome. So let's say that, let's stand up real quick. So let's say that Elwin is dressed up as my favorite character. Like, oh my god, you look so good. Can I take a picture?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Now, let's pose you like this, and let's get your arms over here, and now, put your booty like that. That is ragdolling, and that's not fucking okay. I'm not even gonna split hairs on that one. So,
I didn't know that. Can I answer that?
I was recently in China for 2 weeks on vacation. And to give you an even more deeper insight about this, in China, sadly, they don't take the kind of foreigners and black people. So what they do is that they take pictures of you without consent. I'll be walking around just hanging out with my friends, and they'll act like they're on their phone, and they'll be taking videos and photos of me. It is the most disturbing thing to ever experience. I'm just here to have a good time, being polite, but they see me as a spectacle. And when you follow the country and when you just experience it, even outside of cosplay, it hits you like on a deeper level. Mind you, I've never done that to begin with people. I don't go to any cosplayer like, take a photo. I always ask, can I take a photo of you? They say, no, okay, that's fine, have a good day. But to be treated as if you were just an object, that you're different, click, it hits a lot harder.
Jane, do you have any thoughts behind that as well?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of that. So like that idea of being a spectacle, I think it's really important to realize that these are people that are artists and you're appreciating their art, and they are not doing this to be dehumanized in any way. So they may be dressed as a character, they are not a character, they're a human being that needs the same respect that they would have when they were just walking down the street normally without their costume on. So a lot of this has to do with people feeling entitled to knock somebody down a peg. And maybe, they feel for whatever reason that this person is going to be the outlet for them to express that they want to put someone down. And that's something that can be inflamed in environments where people have the opportunity to do that. So there's the really egregious people that do it when you're just walking down the street and nothing's going on. Then there's people that they feel it's okay to finally do it when someone's wearing a costume. And it's never okay. And that's just something that is a matter of educating people about what standards you should treat other human beings with at all times.
I'm gonna say something about all this stuff too. More about the kids too that does cosplay and whatnot. Like I seen, I went to SAC anime and I seen like, grown men, grown women, like seeing little kids dressed up as cosplay. Oh my God, can I take a picture of your daughter? Can I take a picture of your son, grandbaby, and all this? And the parents are, some of them are cool and they do it and all that. But some like what goes back to what Marcus was saying and demonstrating, it's like they're grabbing the baby's arm, making the kid do all this weird stuff and do poses, and I'm like, that's not cool at all. So we just gotta be mindful to really just ask, you know, just really ask about like, can I take pictures of your kids, and if that's okay. But at the same time, those are kids, and there's perverts online. I work with kids at, you know, West Oakland Youth Center and whatnot, and we can't take pictures. We can take pictures of the kids at our job and whatnot, but we're a safe family and whatnot. But at the end of the day, we all gotta get consent from parents and everything, because those are kids, and they will end up online, and they'll be perverts and stuff. You know, we got perverts in cars just waiting outside of schools, just, you know, so be really mindful about that as well.
Danny, did you have anything to add as well? Thank you, AO, by the way.
Hi, Danny again. I didn't get a chance to say before, but representing mental health and obviously size. You know, there's something, I just want to speak, it's just like such a deeply, speaking as a person whose space has been violated over a long period of time in the past, this is a deeply affecting issue. You know, that, you know, in my particular case, continues to create, you know, a hellish struggle for me every day. You know, so it's something that is important. It's something that cannot be overstated, and it's something that is really affecting to see addressed here today. So I just want to thank everybody on the panel and everybody who came out for making this a reality happen. To the point of cosplay is not consent. It would be remiss to not mention that there's a point to be made about weaponized privilege. My disabilities are invisible, you know, and so I'm half Latin, but it's culturally speaking. I'm white, you know, and moreover I'm a man. And in this case, both in the current sphere lend to authority figures a certain credibility that is unfair and unwarranted, but it's something we can take advantage of for the benefit of all, if nothing else, because it's our responsibility. I'm speaking to the men here specifically, that our voices are taken more seriously, unfortunately, in a lot of cases. And that's part of our privilege, I feel like. It's part of taking responsibility for our brothers, people who are acting up, you know. And you know, I don't want to speak to necessarily, I'm not capable of speaking to like women perpetrators of this, you know, necessarily. That's really for someone else to do, but right now, I can just take responsibility for what's mine. And you know, that's like using that aggression, right? That, you know, I've got a pretty deep voice, like I can get pretty loud, I can like, hey, you know, what the fuck, you know, keep something from happening, make something better, make some step, you know, get someone's attention, you know, fucking, okay, is everybody okay here? Like, can I run and grab someone? You know, is this situation fine? I can keep an ear out, you know, not get involved in shit. You know, maybe what's happening is consensual. Like, you gotta keep your eye out, make sure what's happening is like, don't overact and shit like that. But like, it does matter. Like, and holding accountability to this guy, you know, I've been there before. You know, it mattered for that one guy that is, you know, that was off the street for a hot second because, you know, sorry, I did step up, I did show up to court and shit. So like, but I'm saying that shit matters. That made a difference for that moment in time, you know what I'm saying? So like, it does matter, and our steps each of us, no matter who we are, does have an impact. But I just, and you know, I just want to take responsibility for myself and what my power is, you know. Unfortunately, we have power in a certain way, and I feel like we should use that in an ethical manner, and not give up until it's done, until the work is done. Thank you.
So going on to other troubleshooting matters, thank you, Danny, also. Sorry, I keep introducing the next subject and I forget to thank you, but thank you. Accessibility issues with those who have disabilities. Like Danny was saying a little bit earlier, that not all disabilities are visible. Something to consider, and also, you know, practice being mindful. You know, you never know what someone can be experiencing in an obvious setting or in an unobvious setting. So, Sarah, can you elaborate on this one, please?
In the beginning of conning with me and my husband Keane, we started off by going to San Diego Comic-Con. There's a lot of things that are known. There's ADA accessibility for those with seen and unseen disabilities, and there's no questions asked, none whatsoever. You go and ask for the ADA assistance, you get your badge, and you get your assistant. No questions, and you go about your day. However, that is not seen in smaller conventions or newer conventions, and that's where Keane wanted to make that difference, because we went to Oakland convention, what was it called? KrakenCon. So we were at KrakenCon, and we did get the ADA disability so that we could stand in lines and we could be able to enjoy the convention the most comfortable way. And so my husband Keane is sitting in the ADA chair to wait to be seen for whatever it may be, a panelist or an artist. And someone comes up that works at the convention and says, "Excuse me, do you know this is for ADA and disability?" We all looked at her and said, "Excuse me? Why are you asking this question? I am here for a reason." And he was just livid. We were all livid, and she just did not know. That's why Keane started advocating for people, making those voices heard, making his voice heard, because that is not acceptable. Whether you know or are an offensive person, this is the way that we can help people to learn what's going on. So we did tell her, yes, he is the person that is waiting in the ADA accessibility for this, whatever it is. And she says, "Oh, I didn't know, I'm sorry." Well, that's why Keane started advocating for those with seen and unseen disabilities, and of himself with an unseen disability. In fact, at least a couple. No one knew that he had a back surgery or a foot surgery, or that he lived with a mental health disability as well. And that's where we have to practice that mindfulness. Ask those questions. If you do not know, it's okay to ask questions, but be tactful. Be mindful of the person. You do not know who you are speaking with or what they have gone through in their lives. Take the time, take the patience. And if you want, hey, you can end up creating a new friendship. You can end up being a part of a group You can be attending a panel and you can learn so much. You can be a part of a panel. There's so much here today and every day for all of these conventions, your everyday life. If you want, you can learn and you can experience and take that into where you can make that difference. And that's what this whole panel is about, to make that difference, to have those voices spoken, to have those experiences heard and seen. And it just goes along with everything that we have been discussing here today. And then,
Oh, yeah, I mean, it really just goes down to just being decent to each other. Be excellent. Be excellent to each other. If somebody looks like they're having a rough spot, ask questions. Say, hey, you doing okay? Can I get someone for you? If somebody looks like if they say no, then that's fine too. Like, that's fine for them to say no, because that means that you showed that little bit of human concern to say, hey, you okay? There's actually, this is funny, in Australia, there's a day where it's called, I think it's, You Doing All Right? Where, because there's a lot of male mental health issues over in Australia, actually. I just got back from there recently. But there's a day where everyone gets to say, if you see anyone, you just ask one person a day, you doing all right? And it's okay for them to say no. So, be excellent to each other. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of people fighting a fight that you can't see. And if you see like somebody struggling with a wheelchair or anything like that, ask if they need help, but if they don't, then they don't. And that's it. Just be decent.
Thanks, Marcos. Thank you, Sarah. What to do when things do not bring you joy? If someone's acting out, how do I intervene without doing too much? This is something that I like to talk about from previous conventions. Assessing the situation is really important. Like what Marcos said, just always check in, see if the person's okay. If there's like multiple people in the same party, if everybody in the party says they're fine, I would just leave it be. But if there's like some obvious body language going on, that some people are saying yes, some people are saying no, if you feel empowered, like you can ask a little bit more questions, read it out. Because like you want to ensure, like if you're intervening, like just kind of ensure the safety of others. But if there's like an obvious, like everyone's like kind of giving you like don't worry about it vibe, you can just leave it be. I think the important thing is just kind of don't go along with the bystander effect. Making sure that you're not watching things go wrong and just saying, oh, this isn't my problem. I mean, just, again, we're all in this together, we're all here to have fun. We want to try to make sure that everyone has a good time. And then also reporting it. There's convention figures that will help, resolve any situations that are going on. If there's something happening, like Marco said, like since he works for the convention, he'll have to pull badges. There's rovers at Fandom. There's always going to be someone who can help you. Most places usually have security guards as well, since there's so much people, especially places like MAGFest. I think it's really important to report it, because the more reports that you get, kind of like documenting a fellow employee who's doing something wrong at the job site, like the more information that convention gets, the more action is going to be, the faster action is going to be taken for that person. And then also recording it. So recording it's a little bit iffy. I actually looked into this a little bit. There is a two-party consent recording law. So if you record someone, they can actually push back. However, in most situations, if you pull out the phone and the person's obviously doing something wrong, they'll shape up, because if it is a camera and they are obviously doing something wrong, then there's like further investigation that's usually followed.
Is that federal or is that state?
I can't remember state. It's California, yeah, state.
There's like 12 states.
Yeah, but I know there's like viral videos of like people like getting caught doing things, and it's like, okay, if you're licking ice cream at CVS and you're caught, you're gonna get punished, even though you didn't consent to be recorded, or if you were consent to be recorded. So just keep your act together. Jane, do you have anything to say on that?
Yeah,
I did. The one thing I wanted to add too about like being able to step in if you're seeing something that seems a little bit off, like it's really about making sure that people see that there's somebody they can reach out to. So drawing the attention away from somebody who's getting harassed can be as simple as like just being, saying, what are you doing? Or giving them some eye contact, like just making sure that it's not policing other people, it's checking in with your community and seeing if everybody's okay. And that's just a matter of like being present with other people, which we want to be anyway, because we're all friends here, so yeah.
Yeah. So moving on, again, like I believe Marco said earlier, there is a code of conduct. The code of conduct is available on MAGWest's main site.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys want to check here and see it for yourself, just go at this, I'm saying webpage link. Can't talk today, I'm so sorry. So yeah, just look for the code of conduct. I'm sure everyone's pretty website savvy, so you should be able to find it on the main site. And then, does anybody have any questions so far?
Actually, I have something to elaborate on if nobody has any questions.
Sure.
So, I actually have an anecdotal experience about like, someone reporting someone and it going somewhere. Because that's one of the reasons, it's something I want to share with all of you right now. There was actually someone who, in Sacramento, was, well, let's just not split hairs. This guy was a perv. So this guy was a perv, and we found out about this but like a lot of cosplayers didn't want to get involved, because they're like, oh well, I don't want to cause trouble. But finally, when we did hear about this, and this person not only was this person's badge pulled, this person was reported to several other conventions so they could block access to this person. So conventions talk. If someone's being a shithead at a convention, it's going to get around. And that's one of the reasons I want to make sure that you guys are talking. Who here has seen a rover? It's great. That's awesome. Make sure that you guys keep an eye out and look for those rovers. And if you see something, say something. Conventions want to help you. They want to make the experience as good as possible for everyone. So keep an eye out for the rovers. And if you see something, flag one. It's like, hey, I think that guy is being a little bit off. Can you please go check in on that? If you don't feel like you have the ability to step in on it. And that's the rover's job. Let them do their job. They want to help you.
If I may, for my benefit, and I'm sure for the benefit of everybody, I don't know the markings of what a rover looks like. Was it lanyard, specific lanyard? If let's say I go outside, I see some stuff.
Look for staff badges.
Staff badges.
The worst anyone can tell you is, let me help you find someone to help you.
Right.
Because even if they can't help you immediately, they probably know who to reach out to, and they'll be able to get a hold of someone. And if they can't help you, go to the next person. Go down the line. Make sure that you reach out. As I said, conventions want to help you.
So we're going to do a quick transition. I'm going to ask Marcos to switch with Nightwing. We're going to go ahead and make sure to come up here. Sky, would you like to sit up here as well? Okay, so we're going to go into kind of talking about a little about, more about kind of like Black mental health in general. It really goes into the next thing about, just a little bit. We're just going to go into just kind of like understanding the correlation between Black mental health and where that kind of derived from, as well as how it kind of integrates into the Blerd community. So again, just as some reminders, we're not here to make enemies. If you're the one caught making a mess, clean it up. Please listen to others, evaluate what they have to say. And if you're in the position to escalate, just leave the situation alone. Sometimes those people are going through a rough time. People are always going through things that you may not know. So just making sure you're keeping some sensitivities to that. So for the next part, we're going to talk about mental health, and I'm going to have Wordy lead on this. So Black mental health awareness.
So when it comes to African American community and mental health, a lot of things, I know we want to act like, it's 2019, but what we don't understand is that when the Emancipation Proclamation happened, America had practiced the worst form of slavery that's been known to man. We can sit here and split hairs about, talking about the difference between prisoners and slavery, as in being sold off. But the Atlantic slave trade was designed to tear people apart and put them against warring tribes so they would not escape. And then when they got here, they were branded and treated as animals. You then have the aspect of religion, and all this stuff was going down, and so once they finally said, you know what, you're now free, they got no reparations. They were still working for people who owned them and now had to pay them. And plus two, there was no mental health or therapy for them. It was told, you're free, get over it, move on. While still dealing with Jim Crow laws, the KKK, police, and we're still now in 2019 and things are still going on. I was in SF recently, and I was at a Whole Foods. A black man who's an engineer was being tailed by security. All he wanted to do was get food and go home. But the guy, and here's the kicker, he wasn't white. He was Indian. He had stereotypes of what blackness was and harassed him throughout the whole entire thing. And to watch that, myself, another black man, successful business, see my brother go through this. I put my food down. Me and my lady, we walked right out. This wears on our mind 24/7. You may see me as a wonderful, awesome person, but not everyone sees me as you do. They see me as a stereotype, as a meme, as, oh, you're that one cool black guy who I know, so I'm gonna tell you racist jokes. All that stuff tax on our mind. And when you then have to then go to work and you're constantly then being denied opportunities, like I said before, having this as an artist to finally get into MAGWest, I've had to push and grind way harder than anybody else. So why should I have to do all that? Why can't the concept of my character represent who I am? It doesn't work that way. So for black people with a mental health issue, that tacks on. And there's a lot of internal issues that affect us. I didn't realize Keenan, the other co-host, will speak here, how much weight he was dealing with outside of everything else, prejudice, racism, and eventually it led him to the worst thing ever. There have been reports of more black youth killing themselves over issues still of racism and oppression. LGBTQ killing themselves over oppression. Like, we can even get into the whole right now, think of recently trans women being killed, especially of color, and how much that weighs on you as a person. So mental health is a big issue that we have to really sit down and deal with within our own selves. Get therapy, reach out to friends and those who you love, and don't see yourself as being weak. The same way as your body gets sick, so does your mind. And so I want to open up to my fellow co-hosts. Want to add to that?
I'll go in on that. So, there's a bit of confusion. Yes, I'm from a different state. I'm a Brooklyn native. I was born in New York, and at the age of 14, I moved to Bethlehem, PA. So I am from New York, but I flew for PA, just clarifying. But most of my life, if not all my life, and this is, to me, by perception, I've been living in what people will call the ghetto. So growing up, let alone being a nerd and having the stigma, in the hood, if you were a nerd back in the 90s, it wasn't cool. It wasn't the thing to be. You more than likely were a target for someone to do something nefarious to you because they thought you were weak. And that created the dynamic of you might want to be a good person, but then you have to get into situations where you have to survive and protect yourself to make sure that you do what you want to do. Let alone the whole confusion of, there's a whole other panel that we can talk about it, but really of you being black and intelligent and being in a neighborhood where that's not okay. And that's like one of the also taxing things. Then meanwhile, while all of this is happening in this swirl of things, you're dealing with depression or anxiety and things that people in your environment don't understand, and they automatically call it weak. They call it you being emotional, or you're not, man, you ain't sad, boy, you just, you're not depressed, boy, you don't work, you're not sad, you're not tired, you go to school, like stuff like that dismisses what actually might be something. And of course, when we all probably know this now in the room, when you kind of call something out and call for what it is, whether it's in yourself or in your community or in your friends, the earlier you do it, the better way you can have of solving it or fixing it or making better for the future of it. So my experience with it is it's a bit different. As far as I know, I don't really have any mental disorders. But growing up in school, I guess like the first 2 years, I didn't want to talk to nobody. Just kind of was a thing, I just didn't talk. So they assumed in the New York school system that I had a mental disorder, and I was placed in a class for mental disorder people, if that's the right way of saying it, I'm sorry. But, and then kind of like, if it wasn't for me doing very, very well on the citywide state test, they wouldn't have realized that, oh, this dude, he's okay. And then that's when I started talking, like, yeah, I just didn't want to talk. Like, like you gotta just assume, like, and then, now if you ask everybody up here, I don't know how to shut up, but.
He really doesn't. So.
I don't shut up.
I gotta wrap, I love you, but I gotta wrap you up.
That's it on body.
But no, like, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because as you begin to deal with mental health, the next thing is getting into acceptance for who you are. And this is where I want Ayo and Ronan to talk about this, because there's a horrible misconception that you cannot be black and nerdy. There really is. It's like, if you're black, oh, that means you only like the black characters. Like, alright, why can't I like Superman or Captain America? Why don't I like Black Panther? Even though, yes, I was excited to see the movie, hell yeah. In Oakland, the whole wardrobe, I was there for it, yes. Because, sadly, if you study film, the reason why black exploitation is so important but so horrible, it was Hollywood saying that, okay, you can be black, but you gotta be Samuel, you gotta be like a certain type of stereotype, and then we'll give you money. Why do I have to be a stereotype just to get following approval? So when we see characters who are black, who are not stereotypes in anime, in movies, in cinema, and then it inspires you to know that as an artist, you have that acceptance. So I want to hear from, real quick, Ayo and Ronan about your experiences as artists, learning that you can now be who you are and the wide range of blackness. Because black isn't just either being ignorant or being a uber nerd. There's a whole spectrum. So I'm going to get you to talk about that.
So I'm a rapper and nerd rapper, I guess. I do boom bap and whatnot, but I'm from the hood still. I live in Pittsburgh, California. I'm from Richmond too, and whatnot. And they laugh at me sometimes, and I laugh at them. They can't rap better than me. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm accepted, and at the end of the day, like my mentor's accepted too. He's affiliated with Hieroglyphics and Dell and all them cats and whatnot, and he accepts me. But when I come to these cons, I feel more acceptable to people, whether I'm smoking a blunt with people or, just talking to people about their lives and how they became nerds and all this other stuff, and it's dope. But I used to get bullied and all that type of stuff, but I fought back too, So you just gotta stand up for yourself and be black, powerful, whatever race you are, just stand tall and just fight that shit, like for real, because they don't know how you feel unless you tell them, like, and that's the biggest thing. Like, going back to the Black mental awareness thing, I deal with a lot of depression. I've lived in group homes, and just traveled through the group home system and all that type of stuff. I was blessed to stay at this one group home in Richmond, and I became a nerd in Richmond. You know, one of my first mentors from North Richmond, he taught me how to write my bars, and he was a nerd rapper, ghetto as heck, smoking blunts and blacks and whatnot, but he's rapping about Wolverine punching through the walls and whatnot. I'm like, yo, that's cool. One of my favorite rappers is Charles Hamilton. He deals with a lot of mental health, depression, you know. Sky likes Charles too. I like Charles. That's how we met, through the Charles Hamilton Star Chasers blog. Alex is a Charles Hamilton fan too. But he talks about a lot of mental health and whatnot. He was at the top, making like 3.6 figures as an in-house producer for Interscope Records, Jimmy Iovine, and now he's at the bottom, but he's like doing what he loves. He just dropped a project, and it's kind of like and whatnot, but I'm glad that he's out there, and yeah, Alex knows what I'm talking about. Scott knows.
I want to panel to out, so to only one Ronin. The reason why I said that is because like he used to go by Lone Wolf, the name that I still love, but I accept your new name now. But please tell me now, talk about your experience.
All right. This might date me. I mean, I know that we're in the age of the internet, so the zeitgeist of culture is kind of infinite now. But I grew up in a time where being a nerd was like Urkel, right? You remember the Urkel age? Those were dark times. Yeah, that was it. It's like, oh no, I don't even like cheese that much. But yeah, I mean, like what you were saying about the internet, like you weren't able to see outside of your hometown or your school. And so I went to school, I was the only guy who watched anime, and I was the only guy who liked comic books, and I was the only guy who just liked playing video games and being nerdy. And so it got to the point where I was like, you gotta conform or do you? And I didn't, some people actually try to shove it to the side, try to keep it deep down back then. Now it's easier because people are being more inclusive and accepting. We're still not where we should be, but the only people that I saw growing up were we had Zach the Black Power Ranger. We had the African kid from
Kwame.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Captain Planet.
Earth.
And then we had the black kid in Magic School Bus. And they all had 5 lines. I mean, Zach had a few more. He had hip hop. Hip hop keto. But other than that, yeah, that was it. And so now we're starting to grow and branch out. I do feel like there's some people that I see online who feel like their culture is being attacked just because women and people of color are starting to take up more space in nerd culture. And I think that it's a big enough space that we can all share, and it's not like a political movement or something just to push people down. It's to raise us all up. Because inclusivity.
Yes.
I could have said this word when I was sitting down there. It's the stage. It's really hard. But yeah, just bringing us all together so that we're all seeing each other eye to eye. Oh, Goofy movie.
Powerline, oh my gosh,
Powerline.
Singing it eye to eye.
Yeah, and so that we're all looking at each other. If you're LGBTQ, if you're a person of color, female, male, other, we're all equals, and we should be looked at and should be able to share the same platform.
Yeah.
Basically.
So I want to pass this now back over to Veronica to wrap this all up. But I hope you guys understand the importance that it's okay to like what you want to like and be who you are, and don't be shocked if someone of a different ethnicity likes it too. If anything, that's now new common ground. That's a new chance to gain a new friend, to really even learn a different cultural reference. When I watch anime, I have cousins who are Japanese, Black, and Greek. And I made some things cool, and they're like, do you understand what this actually means? No, tell me. Because then by me knowing the true meaning of it, my appreciation grows. When my white friends ask me, like, why is Black Panther such an important movie? Let me tell you the reason why. Oh, I didn't know that. We can now educate. I want to encourage people to get out of canceling people to educating people. There's a difference between those who need to be canceled. Don't get me wrong. If they some messed up folks, you cut them off. But as someone that is just ignorant, educate them. Put them on game. We all say what? Peep game, right? So put them on game and let them see and let them learn. Because by doing that, that's how we then start closing the gap. Because there's actually a lot of people who want to learn versus those who want to remain ignorant. I'm guessing Sky is what I'm saying.
Yeah, hey. So,
by the way, he's headlining tonight at 8 o'clock, so main stage.
This panel is very informative. So about blurred acceptance, we're blurred, you know, as you probably can see. So I grew up in like foster care and, you know, group homes, Presbyterian homes, all that. And this kind of goes back to the whole mental health thing is, you know, they had me in and out of therapy, and I was on like 6 different pills. It was crazy. And all the time, it wasn't that. It was just me trying to find who I was as a person. And as I got older, I started, you know, I was in like the hood, like in Alabama. And a lot of my friends and stuff were, you know, we're gang banging and stuff. It was crazy. And I was the only nerd in that. So I'm like doing that in the daytime, and in the nighttime, I'm reading comics and playing video games and listening to Lupe Fiasco and stuff. And I had to literally hide that. So, you know, when I like would tell them something, and it was just like, yeah, that's whack, so you gotta kind of stop. And so I was, you know, I was kind of ashamed about it. And then as I got older, I was like, oh, I can actually kind of do this. And, you know, I started to kind of accept it, you know, before I learned about, you know, social media and stuff. And I was just like, I'm gonna just be me. You know, I like this stuff. I like video games. I like anime. You know, Tsunami was the best part of my days. Well, you know, especially in my situation I was in. So I would come home for Tsunami, and that was like, you know, that was my escape. And playing video games and reading Nintendo Power and stuff like that. So what I'm saying is, it's okay to accept it as, you know, as a blerd, as no matter what your background is, you know, everybody can always be themselves because individuality is more important now more than ever. And we don't have to look down on anybody because of that. And people kind of feel like this elitist kind of, you know, mindset about a lot of this stuff. You know, when we kind of look at, you know, black people and as nerds, it don't really go hand in hand, but a lot of times you were accepting us when we were shucking and jiving and killing each other. It was cool. And we was making songs about it. And now we're making songs about the stuff we like. And it's like, I don't know about that. He's pandering. But it's like, this is what we love. And if you don't accept it, it's cool, but we do. So just be yourselves. That's all I say. Right.
So I want to go ahead and pass it back to Veronica. And we're going to start closing things out.
All right, before I close everything out, I just actually want to give a shout out to all of you fellow Blerds at MAGWest, so everyone on this panel, in this room, and doing other things elsewhere. So we got the Rap Nerd, Nightwing, Mark Cooper, Only One Ronin, myself, Vic, who is actually all the way out in Atlanta, Megaran, Sky Blue, and Lyrical. So I'm sorry? New Mexico, excuse me. They're always kind of representing the community and always keeping their game strong. So going into the last thing, again, this discussion could have not happened without Keane Roberson, the man who does all podcasts matter. He's the one who would, you know, again, administrate, fully advocate the full scene, go out of his way to make sure that people were seen. Is the biggest thing for him, and I would actually like Sarah to have some closing thoughts on that.
One of the biggest things coming here this convention is experiencing what my husband did for the conventions, for people, for inclusiveness, for diversity. And for years now, I have lived by this motto, and like the Rap Nerd was saying that, you know, that knowledge is power. The more you know, the less you fear. And the less you fear, the less you hate. Please, know as much as you can. Take that knowledge, ask those questions, take that time, and especially for yourself. My husband is not only just a Blerd, a podcaster, a father, a family man, but he is also a man that had a different life. But even though it was different, he was not alone. You are not alone. We are not alone. If someone goes through something, that means that someone else out there has gone through it. It may not be the same exact experience, but it is out there. That person is out there. Those hearts are out there. Those helping hands are there. All of you here today and everyone up here has given me that heart, that helping hand. The picture on the left is our son. We don't have a picture of our daughter, but as happy as he looks, be sure to check on your happy people. Check on them. Ask them how they're doing. And if they say they're all right, ask again. It'll make them think, and asking that second time can make a difference. And going through the grieving process, I have had people actually come up to me and say, "How are you doing?" Wait, hold on. Am I in the right place to ask how you're doing? And I said, yes. That is also consent. When you want to talk with somebody, am I in the right place? Can I speak with you on something? I want to ask how you're doing. And if you want to push them off for another time, but if they ask that second time, really think about it. Just because shit happens doesn't mean you can't go on another day. Going on another day can lead into the next. You'll have those up days, you'll have those down days. Those waves will come, and especially those waves of grief. I don't know if many of you know, but September and all of September, this whole week, and specifically September 10th, is Suicide Prevention Day, week, and month. Unfortunately, we did lose Keane to suicide. But that does not mean that we can't take this experience, keep moving forward. My whole point in coming here this weekend was to experience what he did in his shoes. I have had many stories, many experiences opening up that have helped me feel included. Instead of being in the background, I am now here, standing in the foreground. And me and Vic, his dear friend and podcast co-host of All Podcast Matters, want to continue what Keane started. And it may not be exactly what Keane wanted, but it doesn't mean that we can't at least reflect on what he's done and what he was doing here for this weekend to advocate for people, to help people know, to bring these things up. And like I said, the more you know, the less you fear and the less you hate. And hate is a very strong word. My mother actually told me and brought me up and said, do not use the word hate. You can dislike, but hate is such a strong word, and it's not tolerated in this house. And going through my upbringing in a mixed race family, first generation from the Philippines, I knew nothing. And when I met Keane, things started falling into place. Things started becoming more aware to myself of what happened to me before in my life with him and moving forward with him side by side. And if you get a chance, please listen to the podcast. There is so much that he enjoyed. He created this podcast and all of these panels because he saw bits and pieces all over the world, all over the internet, all over these communities, and he wanted to pull it together into one. Because of what he didn't see and he wanted to create, and because he's lived with an invisible mental health disability or an illness, if you will, he was constantly coping. Coping for him was creating the podcast, creating these panels, creating the connections, creating those vibes. And his coping mechanism ran far and wide all over the world. And to know the effect that he had on those people, even if it was just one, even if it's 200, having that ability to reach out to people without even knowing is amazing. I want to leave you with that you are all amazing. You are not alone. We are not alone. We have each other. And if you feel uncomfortable, you can go to local websites and you can research. I work with Contra Costa County, and one of the main resources is 211. There is, whether it's housing, it's food, it's mental health, if it's just general health, these resources are out there for you. And it's a click away, or it's a question away, or it's just saying, hey, take your hand and reach out, and you can grasp that light. And I see Keane, and he was constantly trying to grasp that light. And now he is my light, and he is everyone's light, and it will continue. Thank you.